Let's begin with an uncomfortable truth. Most people don't want you to be strong. They want you to be agreeable, relatable, familiar, predictable. They want your opinions to fit inside their worldview. They want your mind to be sharp, but not too sharp. They want your success to inspire them, just enough to feel safe. But if you begin to think too clearly, if you start moving differently, speaking differently, seeing the world through your own eyes, they'll start to feel it. You are no longer one of them. And that's terrifying. Not because you've become dangerous, but because you've become free. And nothing threatens the collective more than the presence of someone who no longer needs its permission. You've been taught to associate strength with performance, loud confidence, fast decision-making, winning arguments, unshakable opinions, perfect productivity. But Nietzsche had a different idea. Real mental strength, he said, is not about domination. It's about transcendence. It's the ability to think independently in a world built on imitation, to see the game for what it is, and still refuse to play it, to reject comfort, to question morality, to think thoughts so sharp they cut through collective illusion. That kind of strength doesn't inspire applause. It invites resistance, judgment, even fear. Because it can't be manipulated, it can't be absorbed. It stands alone. And in a world built on conformity, nothing is more radical than a mind that thinks for itself. Friedrich Nietzsche was no stranger to solitude. He understood that truth has a price, and those who pursue it without compromise often pay with loneliness. He wrote, "The individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. If you try it, you will be lonely often, and sometimes frightened. But no price is too high to pay for the privilege of owning yourself." This is the first threshold. If you want a mind so strong it terrifies others, you must be willing to walk through the fire of being misunderstood. To think your own thoughts means risking exile from the comfort of belonging. But Nietzsche believed that this exile is not punishment, it's transformation. It is the death of the obedient self and the birth of the sovereign one. The world doesn't reward mental strength. It rewards predictability. From the moment you were born, you were trained to be digestible, taught what to think, what to fear, what to believe, what not to question. You were graded on obedience, not originality, praised for silence, not insight, disciplined for defiance, even when it was truth. And slowly, your mind was domesticated. You learned to bite your tongue, to scroll instead of speak, to smile instead of disrupt, because the strong mind, the clear, untamed, unafraid mind, makes people nervous. It challenges their stories. It reveals their contradictions. It reminds them of everything they've abandoned to feel safe. That's why your strength doesn't always inspire. Sometimes it confronts, and sometimes that confrontation is what makes you powerful. Thinking for yourself is not about rebellion. It's about responsibility. The responsibility of facing life without illusion, of holding your own values, even when no one validates them, of speaking the truth, not because it's popular, but because it's yours. Most people never build that kind of mind, because it requires too much silence, too much solitude, too much inner conflict, too much courage. It means shedding the identities that made you lovable. It means admitting you've been wrong. It means letting go of comfort, not as punishment, but as liberation. Nietzsche said, "He who cannot obey himself will be commanded." That is the nature of living creatures. And that's the essence of the strong mind. You command yourself. You write your own inner law, and you follow it, even when it hurts. That's what terrifies people. Not your strength, but your unwillingness to betray yourself to keep them comfortable. A strong mind doesn't shout. It doesn't dominate rooms or win arguments just to win. It doesn't need to convince, because its power is not external. It's internal discipline. It's calm defiance. It's a way of seeing through the noise and choosing stillness over reaction. So what makes a mind terrifying? Clarity. A terrifying mind sees clearly. It knows when something is manipulation. It knows when language is used to disguise control. It sees beneath appearances and doesn't flinch. This kind of perception is unsettling to those who hide in illusion. 2. Detachment. The strong mind does not rush to respond. It pauses, observes, detaches from the emotional theater playing out around it. It doesn't react. It chooses. 3. Self-command. It doesn't obey impulses. It doesn't serve ego. It questions its own motives. And it has the will to say no to what feels good in order to say yes to what is true. 4. Silence. A terrifying mind doesn't need to prove anything. It speaks when necessary, not when expected. It knows that words lose power when they are overused, and silence, in the right moment, says more than argument ever could. Let's be clear. You cannot be mentally strong and universally liked, not because strength is cruel, but because strength doesn't make itself small to be accepted. If you're constantly explaining, softening, apologizing for your truth, you're not thinking from strength. You're thinking from fear. And fear does not create freedom. Nietzsche said, "The surest way to corrupt a youth is to instruct him to hold in higher esteem those who think alike than those who think differently." The strong mind thinks differently, not just for the sake of rebellion, but because it cannot pretend it doesn't see what it sees. If you want to be unshakable, you must let go of being understandable, because those who demand that you soften your mind are often the ones who fear where that mind might go. This is the most painful part of Nietzsche's teaching. To become powerful, you must die to your previous self. Not physically, psychologically. You must shed the people pleaser, the follower, the one who needed constant approval, the version of you that was built on survival instead of sovereignty. Nietzsche called this the path of the Übermensch, the one who has overcome, not others, but himself. He wrote, "What does your conscience say? You shall become the person you are. But becoming that person requires burning everything that is not that." And that's terrifying. To you, to the people around you, to the system that benefits from your conformity. But this is the necessary fire, and every powerful mind walks through it. There's a lie you've been told, that mental strength means being cold, detached, emotionless, ruthless. But true strength is not aggression, it's sovereignty. It's being so rooted in your values, your vision, your inner law, that you cannot be pulled out of it by approval or attack. You don't fight every battle. You don't answer every criticism. You don't waste energy convincing people to see you. You see yourself, and that sight is your weapon, your compass, your peace. Because you've finally left the arena where other people's comfort defines your choices. And in that stillness, you become untouchable. Nietzsche didn't just talk about thinking differently. He spoke of becoming someone new entirely, not by imitating others, not by chasing status, but by creating yourself from the inside out. He wrote, "One must still have chaos in oneself to be able to give birth to a dancing star." Chaos isn't weakness, it's raw potential, but only the disciplined mind can harness it. Because discipline isn't about following rules. It's about choosing structure over chaos, clarity over confusion, direction over distraction. A self-created mind isn't born from motivation. It's built from inner structure, intellectual integrity, brutal honesty with the self, and a refusal to outsource responsibility for what one becomes. The terrifying mind doesn't hope to be strong. It decides, and then it builds, daily, quietly, relentlessly. If you want to terrify others with the strength of your mind, you must stop thinking like the crowd. That means you must unlearn your conditioning. Interrogate every belief you've inherited, from culture, family, religion, education. Ask, do I believe this, or was I taught to repeat it? 2. Pursue depth, not opinions. The strong mind doesn't chase trending ideas. It chases truth, even if it costs admiration. 3. Resist the urge to react. People will bait you, mock you, project their fear onto you. Your power is in what you do not respond to, because when you're grounded, you don't chase chaos, you witness it. 4. Choose solitude over noise. Most people think collectively. The strong mind thinks in silence, reads, writes, reflects, builds clarity in the dark. There will come a point in your evolution when people begin to pull away, not because you've hurt them, but because you've stopped reflecting their illusion back to them. You've become too sovereign, too clear, too awake, and that threatens the unconscious patterns they're not ready to leave behind. Let them go. The strong mind does not need to be understood. It needs to be true. And truth, as Nietzsche knew, has never been safe. He wrote, "The higher we soar, the smaller we appear to those who cannot fly." Let them think you've changed. Let them say you're too much. Let them wonder how you became so unshakable. That's how you know you're becoming someone they never expected and can no longer control. The final stage of building a terrifying mind is not more information, it's refinement. You begin to care less about speaking and more about saying what matters. You let go of debates, you let go of over-explaining, you even let go of winning. Because you've realized, your mind is no longer a weapon. It's a mirror that shows others what they've avoided in themselves. And that kind of presence doesn't just intimidate, it transforms. The weak mind waits to be shaped by the world. The strong mind becomes the forge. You are not here to be molded. You are here to melt down what no longer serves you and recast yourself, intentionally, deliberately, fearlessly. This is what Nietzsche meant by the Übermensch. Not a perfect being, but a human who becomes their own God, their own creator, their own moral compass. Not in arrogance, but in liberation. To build a terrifying mind is to say, I will not live according to inherited scripts. I will burn the false self in the fire of clarity. I will think thoughts that are not approved, because they are mine. You are no longer a passenger in your own mind. You are the architect, the flame, the hand that wields the hammer. And what you create will not be soft. It will be sacred. Freedom makes people uncomfortable. They say they want it until they meet someone who lives it. Because freedom means saying no without guilt, thinking without consensus, walking away without explanation, standing alone without fear, living by inner law, not social contract. This is the mind that terrifies others, not because it wants control, but because it cannot be controlled. Nietzsche understood this. He lived it. He died alone, misunderstood, vilified, but free. His writings remain not because he wanted to please, but because he refused to perform. You don't have to seek fear. You don't have to dominate. But if you build your mind to be truly your own, do not be surprised when it begins to disrupt every space you enter. You are not feared because you are dangerous. You are feared because you are no longer predictable. There's a moment in the path of inner power when you realize there's no one left to blame, no one left to follow, no permission left to wait for. Just you, your will, your mind, and what you choose to do with it. Nietzsche's final challenge was not to become strong for others, but to become strong enough to live with your own mind, fully awake. He who has a why to live can bear almost any how. So what is your why? Not the surface-level goals, not the scripted dream, but the reason you were willing to leave the herd, to burn the mask, to terrify the world by simply being free. If this message stirred something in you, if a part of you is done performing, done obeying, done thinking thoughts that were never yours, leave a comment. What part of your old mind are you ready to burn? What kind of mental power are you ready to embody without apology? And if you're walking the path of inner sovereignty, radical clarity, and Nietzschean fire, subscribe. We are not here to be palatable. We are here to be true. Until next time, keep shining, not to be seen, but to see.